Welcome to another episode of Bright Insights, the podcast that leads you to less stress and more success. Here's your host, Paul Bright.
Welcome to the Bright Insights podcast. I'm your host, Paul Bright. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking in to this season 1 wrap up. If you're new to the party's not shutting down permanently, but you can still stick around and hear what the party was all about and get on the train for the next one. As always, if you want to check out and learn more about who I am and what we're doing and where we're going, you can always go to the Bright Insights website at brightinsightsmedia.com. Yes, this is the end of season 1, and I just wanted to summarize the different series we went through, talk about where we're going to go next, and see who's ready to jump on board. So again, the purpose of Bright Insights, when I created this, I started off doing this on another network. It was through Inspired News Radio, which is run by my friends, Susan and Scott Sullivan. It's a great network online. It's got a lot of podcasts that feature people like me who like to do personal development, entrepreneurship, self-help, a health focus, and all of them have their own businesses, and the podcast points to their expertise and they get a better message out to you. They have time slots where you can hear their live episodes and the repeat schedule. And it's a great model. It just had changed to a point where I couldn't no longer fit into it, but I would have more time to go out on my own and then perhaps come back one day. And so that's where this came from, was because they asked for more people who can do personal development. I was like, oh, you know what? I've reached a point in my life where I think I've got a lot to give to people in terms of leading small groups and starting off and wanting to know, where do I start as a leader besides just doing the job and trying to make as much money as I can. And that's what I give you with Bright Insights, except I put a little twist in it. I use my counseling and psychology background to offer ways to solving any people problems you can run into. I also go back into my life history with my 10 years I served in the active duty Air Force, just before 9/11, well, a few years before 9/11 and throughout. I go into my history of working as a summer camp counselor, what I do at my church, and what I currently do in the mental health field. I give it all to you. All the pieces of my life, the ups, the downs, the successes, the failures, and especially the parts where I was either learning how to lead or ended up leading a small group, a small team to accomplish a mission or get something done. And everything I learned with that, and all my education. I have 2 master's degrees, one in psychology and one in organizational leadership. And I've got a few other certificates and other things too. But I'm bringing it all to you because I feel like if what I can give can help people out there be less afraid to lead, less afraid to put themselves out there on the table, and less afraid to fail, but ready to learn from those failures and really ready to be successful and focus on their people a little more, we're going to have a world with less stress and more success. Running a business and entrepreneurship and organization where you're in charge, there's so many parts of the brain that people focus on, like memory, short-term memory, long-term memory, sustainability, all that stamina, and that's great. But there's also another part of our brain that's just as important. That's the limbic system, which is all about thoughts and emotions and feelings. And if we forget that piece of our brain, it's just as bad as forgetting the parts of long-term memory and short-term memory, the things that we hope bring us all success. So I'm addressing all that. That's what I do in this podcast. And so the first series I did was just to lay a foundation about psychology and breaking out the myths and just having some fun. It's called Inconceivable. And yes, I took that word from a character in The Princess Bride. And you'll find that if you're new to the party, that I like to use movie quotes from the 80s and the 90s and some music references and NBA players and wrestling and whatever I can think of that I've enjoyed that actually puts a little life into the podcast and taught me a lesson about leadership. I'll put it in there. And Inconceivable is no stranger to that. And I broke down the different roles of people in the mental health field. What's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? What exactly does a counselor do? I break all that down. Another episode, I interviewed somebody who has a form of bipolar disorder, and she's a good friend of mine. I've known her for a very, very, very long time, and it's the interesting work that she does because of the way she came about to figuring out she had bipolar disorder and what she decided to do with that knowledge, and how she's been able to successfully raise a family and some great kids. I tackle disorders that people throw around in common day, like OCD and PTSD, and how a lot of times those terms are misused and can actually be quite offensive to those who really have those conditions. I tell you what they really mean. The next series was focused on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's Maslow's organization and you. And the basis of it was I broke down each layer. And if you're not familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, his theory was that people are motivated. They're always trying to go up, but they can't go up unless they satisfy the layer that's below them. And it starts with like food, shelter, clothing, and then moves up to safety and security. And then you go up, to love and acceptance, and then confidence, self-esteem, and then finally self-actualization. And you can't keep reaching towards that pinnacle of your best self unless those other layers are somehow handled on the regular. And I talk about how that can mirror in your own organization. And you can hire people that leave you no matter how well you're paying, no matter how many benefits you think you're giving them. If there's parts of that hierarchy of needs that are below where they think they should be and they're not being satisfied, they could leave you. And if you want to retain these employees, you got to pay attention. And so I break down each layer. I talk about what it can look like in your organization. I talk about what you could do about that. And then I had a break episode that wasn't a part of a series, and it was really about addressing haters. And I titled it, "You Don't Really Have Haters." And it's not to say that there aren't people out there who don't criticize you or disagree with what you have to do, or there's not folks out there just saying at every turn that you suck. What I'm telling you really in it is the different types of people there are that are your critics, and how there's really only one type that truly are haters and what they look like. And my hope in it all is that you can find a way to focus less on the people that don't really matter, or the opinions that don't really matter. Take the ones that do matter and apply it, and then really, really focus most of your energy not worrying about haters, but the people that are going to help you move forward. And then I closed out the season with a Leadership 101 series, and I talk about two different types of leadership styles. There's many, but I really focused on two. I talk about how the relationships in your organization can determine the direction, and how even though you may just feel like that you're the owner and you have a lot of subordinates and they like you, some may not feel like they're being treated as equally as the next guy because of how they watch you interact and the different types of opportunities that people are given, and how to look out for that and to really take a look at yourself and how things are going. Because sometimes a misperception of how things are, the difference between what your intent is and how it comes out, can really bring down morale and reduce production. And I go into what it means to have a clear, concise vision, and what it is to look at the culture around you so that you can have a better opportunity of creating the right culture you need to help push that vision along. And that's what I went through for the first season. And I had a lot of people supporting me. I got a lot of shout outs to give to my friend Miss Oyster. That's what I will call her. That's her cool nickname. She was one who decided, I asked her politely, can you please contribute to my podcast? Because I'd really, really like to hear your speaking voice in the intro and outro. And she said yes, and we made it happen. My son Logan, who created the music that you hear, and he's got music you're going to hear throughout other podcasts. He legit put all that together. My friend Ryan A., that brilliant, brilliant logo that you see with the brain and the spark in there and all the lettering, he came up with that. He's a graphic artist. I've known Ryan, since 1989, I think. and we've always had a close relationship, and we live on opposite ends of the country, and I've been all kinds of places, he's been all kinds of places, yet we still find our way back to each other. And, we're much older than when we met, and yet here we are still connected. And man, what a good job he did with that logo. And I'm hoping you see that logo in more and more places, like stickers and t-shirts and posters and coffee mugs. That's my dream for Bright Insights, is to get to that point. And you guys have been helping. Those of you who are regular listeners, thank you, man. Thank you so much. It gives me a good boost of confidence. I feel like I'm going in the right direction when I know there's people downloading, and I can see on the stats that people are listening through, and they're on Spotify, and they're using Apple Music and Google Podcasts, and you're everywhere. I want to thank some people who helped out with some ad support. Like Arish Rivers. Arish is awesome. I met him in a special small forum we have. We're connected as dads that are doing our own thing. And Arish has been a great light and contributor to some of the ideas and just the confidence boost I get from him. My good friend Kat Moy, who's out there in my hometown, and she's part of the city council, and she's been listening to some things and giving me some pointers and boosting confidence. Obviously my family, my son, my wife, my daughter, they're all listening and getting me things. They're really behind me. They know Dad always has to do something creative and put it out there. And they've been really sticking with me on this. And they're like, Dad, we think this is what you should be doing. And so they've been a tremendous support. Oh, I have so many people I can name. But I want to thank all you guys for just, helping me wanting to do this. And I'm going to start pushing it forward. And this is the vision I have for the next season. All right. Check this out. The next season is going to be 26 episodes, and it's going to be an A to Z for new leaders. And so every episode is going to be dedicated to a letter in the alphabet. And each letter is going to represent a leadership principle that if you're new to being in charge of folks, you're going to take that, you're going to listen to that episode. It's going to be a tightly packaged one to where you can remember some really key points of that. And you're going to put that in your pocket and listen to the next letter. Say, okay, what's next? What's he got next? What's next? What's coming? What's going to represent B? I want to know. I got to hear this. I want to keep this in my pocket. I'm going to be interviewing people who've already agreed to be interviewed. Experts in the fields of the letters. I feel so blessed that I know so many experts in places and they're willing to contribute. They want to help out. They're behind my vision too of less stress and more success. And so that's what I'm looking at for next season. I'm hoping that I can get that rolling after the holidays. I've got supporting books that are going to be related to all this that I've got to work on. I've got one that I'm halfway done with already that's going to show you how to address someone who's got an issue and you don't know what to say. Something's pushing some bad behavior or some bad performance, and how you can get out what that real reason is and what to do with it without seeming cold or callous, because that's tough for people. Some people just don't know what to say, and they think, well, I'm not an expert. I'm not a therapist. You really don't have to be. But there is a way you can listen, and there's a way you can respond so that no matter what happens, no matter what the end result is, and you get them to where they need to be, they're always going to remember you, because that's one thing. People will remember somebody who made that first step towards positive change in their lives. They're not necessarily going to remember what therapeutic model they went through. They're not necessarily going to remember what class they went through, but they'll say, you know what? If it hadn't been for so-and-so to step in and actually listen to me and point me in the right direction, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's what this book is going to give you. Once I'm finished with that, you're going to hear and see all about it, especially throughout the next season. So I hope that you're as excited about it as I am. Thank you so much once again for going along this journey. And I still wish you less stress and more success. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Bright Insights. For more information on how to have less stress and more success, visit brightinsightsmedia.com.